was mapping a galaxy one ordinary day, charting it out, seeing what he may. Suddenly his Ludicron drive got a glitch. Damn, he said, life's sometimes quite the bitch. Unsensed from time, out of the loop, he knew things weren't gonna be fine. He didn't know anything except he was in deep, deep poop. When he caught the beat, he could end up digging his own mind. Luck was with him on that day. Life a game he continues to play. What kind of luck? We didn't say. You tell us when you see the place he must stay. He came down in the yard of a strange pseudo-man who mistook Dick Ship for some kind of gift. Brain dead, so said a bioscan. Hey, maybe my ship will be too heavy to lift. Dick's hope quickly crashed into the house. With him the man dashed.
Mama, look, a phone! My dream has been cashed!
Whatever, son, it's time for corned beef hashed. Return to time, another loop. Currently screwed away out. He must find he didn't know anything except he was in deep, deep poop to a life of dreary darkness. He's been sadly resigned. These are the logs of Dick Powah, void explorer trapped in the bedroom of a strange giant pseudo-man. He must try to repair his Ludicron drive, or he will die, and his ship will become another piece of random junk on this weirdo's desk.
Dick Powah reporting day 607 in hell. All the darkness in here and the apparent density this Cyraxx character exhibits reminds me of a blackwad, in more ways than one. Since I'm not sure who will hear this, I'll also address the giants. While I cannot interface directly with their computers, I have learned through photon capture of his screen that he is not typical of the intelligent race on this planet. Thus, one of them may actually be intelligent enough to follow this. Anyway, for you Earth people, a blackwad is our name for stellar corpses of stars above a certain mass. For example, the star this planet orbits will eventually become a tiny ball of ultra-dense matter. It will no longer be able to cause fusion, and without fusion, gravity takes over, pulling the leftovers into a state so dense there is no longer space between the electrons of each atom. We call these light wads, because at this point matter is more like a dense wad of itself. For stars more massive than the electron degeneracy limit, gravity pulls the electrons into the atomic nuclei, creating neutrons, essentially a star made of, and that acts like, a giant neutron. We call these heavy wads, because they are too heavy for protons and electrons. Then there are stars so massive that when fusion stops, the force of gravity, well, put simply, it wins. Neutrons are made up of stuff like quarks and gluons. After a certain point, the gravitational force crunches the atoms down into, we aren't sure what exactly. I like to imagine it as hot, very tight blackness. Anyway, at this point, as far as matter goes, that's all she wrote. Anything that ends up on the surface gets crushed into the same material. Some of our ancient astronomers and physicists thought they were actually holes one could enter. Through thorough experimentation, we found out the only way in is to be buried by other unlucky matter. It's hard to tell exactly how this person came to be here. He's already provided ample genetic evidence for me to analyze. It's important to note, without a sample from another member of his species, I can't be sure of my current hypothesis. However, having seen other members of his taxonomy branch, this guy is technically a miracle of biology. He is actively dying, yet somehow continues to function as if nothing were wrong. I have never seen a corpse with a pulse, nor has one ever provided me with a sperm sample. While I had toyed with the notion of reanimation in my youth, and was thus not surprised to see a living dead man, the reproductive sample was a shock, to say the least. I was, shall we say, pleasantly surprised to find that he is utterly incapable of spreading his damaged genetic code. His sperm are almost completely immotile. They remind me more of fungal spores than anything else. And speaking of his damaged genetic code, following a cursory examination of the other members of this family, there is no way he is their offspring. Facial analysis indicates he is probably the grandson, or perhaps great-grandson, of the female he calls Mom. She doesn't seem to be the dullest fork in this drawer, but strikes me as far below average. However, the disconnect between them is remarkable. I wonder if she, or perhaps her offspring, were affected by consumption of lead or other heavy metals, combined with long-term organophosphate exposure. Perhaps he was conceived near the runoff of a toxic waste dump. Whatever the actual circumstances, if there was a perfect storm of genetic damage caused by bad partner choice and environmental contamination, it would be this guy. He is clearly trying to intimidate here, and it's laughable. Seriously, I would laugh. But talking about genetic samples reminded me that he'll have a fresh one for me when he's done playing dress-up. And speaking of that, I have never seen someone so streamlined. I mean, looking at his profile from the front or rear, he's like a torpedo, or what I mentioned earlier. If he could stand up straight and maintain that posture in a dive, he might have a splash profile 1/10 his size. However, after seeing him in side profile, I highly doubt he'd be able to straighten up long enough. What a shame, or it would be if I cared about competitive diving. And, touching on sports, something tells me he's not exactly a beast in the ring. I would be surprised if he ever won a fight with anything larger than half his size. While I'm speaking to you, perhaps you'd care to hear how I got here. It kind of involves a black wad. We use them to accelerate to a useful fraction of the speed of light as a kickstart for what we call a Ludicron drive. I'm not authorized to give you the specifics, but time gets weird near black wads, and if the Ludicrondite crystals have a flaw, this can cause a time decoupling event. Basically, if our timeline were thought of as a rope, and we were all clamped to it, my ship and I became unclamped. We, for lack of a better term, fell until we could clamp back on, which was in the exact same spot we were, just at a completely different time. All in all, things could have been much worse, depending on one's point of view. If you think death would have been preferable to this, then reclamping just a tiny fraction of a millimeter lower would have put me inside the planet. I'm still hoping to find a way out of here. Now back to how this space and person reminds me of a black wad. Black wads are so dense that heat can't radiate from them, because radiant heat is a form of light. The only thing a black wad can do is assimilate matter into itself. Watching this guy go from pleading to know why he's being targeted to dressing up like a Flugarthian's penis makes me think that information does the same thing in his brain as matter on a black wad. It just comes in and gets warped into something unrecognizable. And because it's unrecognizable, he can't tell if it's something he's already tried before. Though I have only been here a week, I can see a definite cycle, and I suspect it has been going on for quite some time. You know, I really should eat before he's done here. I mean, I can turn off the view screen, but the biological scanner will chime in with an alert. For some reason, if I am eating or about to eat, when that happens, I get ill. Especially if the food has mushrooms or anything small and crunchy. But if I've already eaten, I'm good. So this is Dick Powah, signing off. Ah, creamy truffle noodles and bacon bits. Son of a bitch!